Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Thanks for checking out my video. My name's Henry Harrison. We're going to take a quick look at the week of astrology here for July 19 through July 25. So, appreciate you stopping by to watch. Not too much goes on this week. I have tried to record this a couple times, and this looks like a better time to try to do that. So, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, not a whole lot going on, and struggling to even really think about how to talk about it. The terrain that we're on, has changed basically, right? Because so many planets are, they've perfected these oppositions or otherwise have gone through the square to Uranus, or, Mercury's changed signs. So, the way that we want to go about things, or the way that I've thought about this several times and trying to kind of formulate it in a way that would last, that I could say on the video, right? But we're in a different place now, right? So I feel like this week is more about sort of the way we're relating to what that is, and just sort of how we feel about it, I guess, or the way that it's going to show up, right? Things are going to show up differently now that things have changed. So let's just go into the calendar view. So we can see that from today, Sunday, through tomorrow, the moon is making these aspects to the planets. So the moon's picking up on this particular configuration of planets. On Tuesday, the moon is in Sagittarius. Mercury will sextile Uranus. The moon will cross the north into the south node, which is the main thing that happens on Tuesday. On Wednesday, similar deal with the moon, but Venus will move into Virgo, which is her exilic condition, moving from no particular dignity in Leo, where she's been, to being in fall or exile. I don't know if there's a difference. There might be, but somehow she's lost the dignity, and she makes opposition to Jupiter on the day that we have the sun moving into Leo. We have the full moon in Aquarius this week, which will happen on Friday after the moon. Pretty much right after, as the moon goes into Aquarius. And because everyone's talked about it, but the next full moon will also be in the later degrees of Aquarius. And then on Saturday, Mercury will trine Neptune, which, is, going to happen in the realm of our communication, the way that we want to express, I feel like from going from Mercury in Gemini to this Mercury in Cancer situation, or condition, territory, there is, rather than trying to do two things at once or say two things at once, I feel like it's the more cardinal expression, right, of Mercury. So, it's more like water, it's like the transition of water in a cardinal way with Mercury. It's, on a purely mundane level around here, it's been so much rain, sudden rain. It seems to me like just like getting into the emotional, a beautiful emotional place that we can with Cancer. It's been an opportunity. Since things have changed. We're in a different environment now, at least. In a large way. I wish I could effecate that a little bit better, what I mean by that, but in lieu of that, we'll just continue. This week, I got an ephemeris, and I've learned how to read the secondary progress chart. And my dad, someone I never had been able to see his time, I never have had his birth time. So there's so many techniques that rely on like the ascendant to kind of tell you about a person in their life. But the secondary progress chart, you only need someone's birthday. So I read my dad's secondary progress chart and I cried. I cried because I feel like I finally understood this man and like the way that we're different, right? So it really, really was good for me, you know. Very different people, you know. He's got Saturn direct in Capricorn. I've got Saturn retrograde in Pisces, right? So we're very different people. But yeah, I cried. I cried. So a lot of crying with Mercury and Cancer. So it's good stuff. But okay, well, so we'll get into it. So I mean, nothing too huge happens this week, I guess. I think the more major things happen next week. We're gonna take a quick look at that first. Um, yeah, so the Mercury opposes Pluto, Mercury in Leo, Jupiter retrogrades back into Aquarius, which is interesting. And Mars will move into Virgo, which is a very distinct change in the way that we're going to try to use our drive to do detail, basically. Doing Mars, detail, Virgo. We're going to be doing things in detail when it comes around the end of the month. Or just, we've got all these things we want to do, and we're going to feel like we just want to get them all done, right? Get them checked off our list, or so on. But anyway, we'll talk about the week at the moon right now. So we'll just start on Monday. So come Monday morning, let me turn off this point. I've been looking at a lot of different charts. I haven't really thought very much about the transiting astrology. I guess because like it's not as interesting as it was to think about, or maybe not as I don't know, something or other towards not being as interesting to look at. I've just been thinking about other stuff, but this is pretty cool. We have here on Monday, the sun has finally passed through this trine to Neptune, which is really good. Last week was kind of, a little lost in the sauce, right, for a lot of people. And I think we might see a bit, maybe like the final end of that with the luminary energy kind of lighting up Neptune in the most idyllic, or I guess dream-oriented way. Neptune's got a bad rap these last few months. The other thing I've learned is that the outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, they were named by astronomers. They were, the mythos that is associated with the names of those planets doesn't really fit what those planets mean. The meanings of the planets outer planets were only recently invented. So definitely has shifted. Like I definitely feel like we're in a different place now. I can think about things differently than maybe we have, right? Maybe Pluto isn't Pluto, etc. Maybe Neptune isn't Neptune. But they definitely still mean what they mean, and we're still going to call them that. So anyway, sorry. As we go through Monday, though, the moon has to go through all these different moods, as the moon does. The moon will be void of course, and then sort of be entering this T-square energy with Jupiter, Venus, and Mars on either side. Now Jupiter's the rule of Sagittarius. So, I feel like the moon is getting a nice, warning, or, the fair sort of nature of Jupiter, integrative nature of Jupiter is informing the moon of, what has to go, with the south node there. Maybe we're getting more, I don't want to say we're getting more clear, because the moon's going into the south node, which will be, for most contexts, a rather like wishy-washy, confusing situation, kind of like Neptune being more manifest, like in the, I guess, corporal world, right? And there are important events that happen on Tuesday, right? But yeah, so really Monday just looks like this square here. Well, the moon makes that trine to the sun, so when I see the square to Venus, it makes me think people are going to want to overspend. They're going to want to, and Mars there too, like kind of overbuy, overconsume. Definitely will be, a danger at that time, kind of like trying to get what you want really quick because it'll like give you a quick fix. Well, try to breathe on Monday, I think. If you're feeling, out of touch, try to get back in tune with your breathing, I think would be probably a good thing to do. But, we go through several different things on Monday, it looks like. But as the moon goes into Sagittarius and makes the square to Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, yeah, that's what I have coming up. It's like we're getting kind of like warned about what's to come. Cause, Jupiter's going to leave Pisces and move into Aquarius, where they'll be ruled by Saturn. So another interesting thing this week I've thought about is like the chains of disposition with the moon. Right now they're ruled by Jupiter, right? So it's kind of like, hey, this is like kind of like the end of what all this was with Jupiter and Pisces for the time being, and like we're gonna let go of that kind of with the these contacts, these inner desiring planets, right, that we've just left, moving into the square to Jupiter and then moving into the conjunction of the South Node. We kind of have to let go of like things related to Jupiter, even though Jupiter will return to have good dignity ruling signs after some time. But, I feel like we got to kind of like kind of get ready for a harder period of time to come up through the rest of the year, and that's kind of symbolized by the chart here. So the moon will go through the sextile to Saturn. I guess we just skipped through Tuesday there. So the Tuesday is the moon on top of the South Node at 8 a.m. and then moves to the sextile to Saturn. I've been looking at this chart a lot because this is the chart for the space launch for Jeff Bezos and his crew. Just about. Yeah, it makes me feel like we're kind of considering like what has to get cleaned out in the Sagittarius area after the eclipses, and what could we I don't know. I feel like we're just kind of defining what the journey means at this time, if that makes any sense. So the moon will square Neptune in the early morning and make the trine to Mars. So we probably won't see much of that. But, that definitely does color what we see on Wednesday. The moon is void of course off of Venus and then moves into Capricorn. So that's a very small period of time to be void of course. Wednesday looks like a nice day. Other testimonies concurring with the trine to Venus and Mars. They're not really affecting the rulership of what the moon is doing in Sagittarius. That's exclusively with Jupiter being its domicile. But, maybe there's an opportunity to have fun with, looks like maybe a group of people, or somehow, your environment on Wednesday will include, this sort of fun connection. Something like that. It's mostly just transits of the moon, so it could show up in various ways, I guess. But the moon will go into Capricorn, make the sextile to Jupiter, which is interesting because now the moon is in Saturn's sign, making the connection to Jupiter in Pisces retrograde. So, I think things do get serious, and, but we do have a good degree of hope, and we do know that things are going to return to, new normal eventually. Right. But the Venus will move into Pisces, Virgo. She'll lose, she didn't have any dignity, really, but in Leo. But, Venus and like the way we kind of want to enjoy and value things, might become more about the detail, organization, the orderliness of things. And, I think, we're definitely transitioning into something new at this point. Because, on Wednesday, we had that last bit with Venus and Mars and Leo connecting to that. So, remember that on Wednesdays, that it's kind of like the last time that this energy is really available, because Venus and Mars change signs. Venus changes signs on Wednesday. So that's really the end of Wednesday. But on Thursday, interestingly enough, the moon doesn't really connect to either of those planets. So it's kind of like going on in the background, like the way we've changed the way we're, I guess valuing things with Venus. The sun will move into Leo. Happy birthday to Leo. Anyone that was born as a Leo coming up. But the moon on Thursday is really only making that connection to Uranus in Taurus, which is interesting. Now, take a look at this, right? I'm just going to explain it to you, but it's going to be notable that Uranus and Taurus will... So right now, Uranus is ahead of Saturn in terms of degree, right? But Saturn will actually move backwards and then overtake Uranus while Uranus retrogrades pretty close to the beginning of the sign, I think, or back to 11 degrees or something like that. So it's interesting that Saturn is going to really get the traction, get the steam, where Uranus will kind of be more stationary, a little more retrograde as we go forward. So in a way, Uranus and Taurus, this plan or this strategy of Uranus, I feel like, can mean doing things in a planned or otherwise planned. I get it's like intuitively knowing what you're doing that ends up getting you favor, basically. And Saturn isn't about that at all. So Saturn's about the disciplined and day-to-day sort of endeavor that culminates in someone's work over time. So what I'm meaning to say is that Saturn will even move into Pisces before Uranus moves out of Taurus. So there is this sense of things kind of slowing down with Uranus and Taurus, maybe, or there's like a distinct change in direction that happens with the whole Saturn Uranus axes, right? At this present time, we might feel like, oh, Uranus things are like moving ahead. They're going forward in a way, but Saturn will have a different, like, things are going to play out, I think, a little bit differently than we maybe currently feel like they are. Okay, that's all I can do to try to explain that. Okay, so Thursday looks interesting. The Venus opposite Jupiter, it really does seem like having a lot of options, but you like them a little bit less than we did when they were in Leo, or like when you actually. But in a way, it's the two benefics. It's a great opportunity to get this last bit of like what Jupiter can bring into your life, what Venus can help you, or how to organize what's consolidating here with Jupiter in Pisces in your chart. Okay, so that's kind of that day. Yeah, and I mean it's a serious attitude. It's ruled by Saturn retrograde, but it's kind of being booed up a little bit, I think, by Jupiter there. So it looks like a pretty nice day. Might be raining or something, but it looks pretty good. So it looks like something kind of spoils the party a little bit, but there's definitely like an opportunity to do something, some integrative benefic thing comes into your life on this day, for sure. Thursday here, still. So I guess that's a bit more context for Thursday. Thursday's kind of, it's a wider orb, but the moon is applying opposition to Mercury and applying the conjunction to Saturn, or to Pluto. So it's kind of like an extreme communication that has to happen, or like somehow, like, we've got these two axes of standoffs going on, right? We've got this Pluto Mercury thing, opposition going on, and also the Venus Mars opposition, Venus Jupiter opposition, Mars Jupiter opposition building up. So there could be conflicts in different ways throughout this time, as the angles really hit the different parts of this chart. Yeah, it looks like it might be playing out in terms of like an extreme communication you have to have. Or just like kind of our emotions and our thinking are kind of like not on the same page, right? This Mercury in Cancer is being ruled by the moon in Capricorn, who's being ruled by Saturn. So it's going to take the much more serious emotional tone at this time. And I think that's really, really apparent. And even like kind of, this is almost the full moon at this point, and the full moon's going to be right there on top of Saturn. So it's a very bright light on this Pluto with Mercury on the opposite side. So maybe a lot of stuff comes out about billionaires or something at this time. Something relative to Pluto coming out, or when Mercury conjunct Pluto, on January 6th, there was that whole thing, so maybe something related to January 6th comes out this day. As we put a lot of light on that area of the chart, and Mercury is opposite. So Friday kind of looks like dreamy, washed out, power related, very bright, like very, very lit up with these themes, especially kind of picking up on what this Neptune Pluto sextile thing is. Very clear at that time. But the moon will go into Aquarius and perfect the full moon by 9:30. So Friday looks pretty not fun overall. And then let's see, here we have the full moon. Full moon at 1 degree of Aquarius is getting highly lit up, and let's not forget that Mercury trine Neptune is building up at this time. So, we have these very intense, like all of the planets are doing something with an opposition at this time, except for Neptune and Uranus. So pretty much all of the planets are in opposition at this time, and Saturn too is not quite. But the full moon is going to be on Saturn, so I think we really, the challenges, or like, I want it this way, but the circumstances are this way, or a disagreement about what we want things to be like. Those things are sort of playing out while the light really gets put on the problem or the difficulty or the failures that were maybe associated with Saturn there. But it's very bright on those planets, and Mercury is under the beams under the trine to Neptune. So I don't really know about how well we'll be able to think about all of this at that time. It might be very discombobulated to trying to get all of that. Okay, so Saturday, so Mercury perfects the trine to Neptune. We have that full moon conjunct Saturn and the full moon square Uranus. So, the light at this time is really getting put on the restrictions, the difficulties, the limitations that you may be, that we're all definitely dealing with. And, we're looking at, like, where does, because Saturn will be ruling Jupiter throughout this next phase of time. We're really looking at what Saturn's agenda is here, what problems Saturn is dealing with, that Saturn is saying, hey, you need to deal with this, like it or not. Should be more available at that time to know about. But this square to Uranus is really interesting because it's a full moon. So I really wonder about what that is. I mean, it's like a sudden, Uranus is still very direct at this time, so it's like breaking forward, breaking ahead in the face of the restrictions. So, that's kind of what I expect, sort of like the atmosphere will be very, locked down, so to speak. But, there is this opportunity or, something that's going to manifest as like an unexpected, like, breakthrough or breakout. So, definitely could be interesting to put a small small bit on not financial advice. Could be interesting at that time, or to be looking for something at that time. So that's Saturday. But Mercury is trying Neptune retrograde, so it's and going to be moving into the opposition to Pluto by Sunday afternoon. So Mercury will definitely be talking about these more hidden things, or I don't know exactly what that looks like. Mercury being right there, we've been seeing these hits with like the sun. The sun went through that trine and that opposition, and it was a certain way, but with Mercury, who rules our communications, our business, our traveling, and so on, probably will come to an intensity at this time. And Mercury is in Cancer, who's not has no particular dignity in Cancer. So Saturday through Sunday with mercurial type stuff, it's kind of like going through this, these more obscure forces, and probably talking about that. And the interesting thing here on Sunday, on the afternoon here as well, is that the moon is void, of course, off of Mars before they go into Pisces. So we're picking up on this oppositional axis with the moon there, which is, something to expect, I guess. We're going to have this loose sort of T-square playing out next week, with the moon in Pisces, Aries, Taurus. The moon will be going through these loose T-squares. They pretty much perfect this week except for the Mars. So what does that look like? Mars, just bear with me. Yeah, this Mars-Jupiter T-square on August 2nd, where the moon is approaching the North Node. Ruled by this Mercury Cassini. So that's very interesting for next week. But, something about this week is very oppositional, and that's pretty clear in the chart. Oppositions, when they show up in the chart, you're going to see the angles get activated at the same time, right? So the 1st and the 7th houses, and then the 4th and totally forgetting 4th and the 10th house will get activated at the same time. So there could be like these waves of like very intense circumstances that play out several times throughout this week with so many oppositions, so much opportunity for the angles to get activated. So this week kind of starts off like kind of optimistic, and like, but Jupiter's like, hey, watch out, it's gonna not be fun. Whether we heed that or not, we're just kind of having fun with it, maybe. I do like that Saturn is making the trine, or making the sextile there, because Saturn's like kind of like giving you a chance to like get with the program. In a way, as the moon goes through Sagittarius, we're kind of like going through this journey and so on. And then with the moon in Capricorn, the keywords probably would be like making a plan, knowing what you're going to do, what's the structure of things look like, less about emotional stuff and more about I guess the serious facts of things. And I think the moon and Mercury are kind of on the wrong page about that, which is kind of interesting. I don't think that'll show up very well. So the moon's kind of like he's like activating these oppositions throughout the week. So kind of a messy week. I think last week was kind of messy for a lot of people too. The sun will go into Leo though, so that's a pretty big change of energy. We're gonna be more bold with our energy. We're gonna like wanna go and shine before others, really. And I think there'll be more opportunity for that next week. But the sun is in Leo when the moon is in Aquarius, obviously. So I think that'll be really interesting to really see all of those things, even though it's more of the painful side of life that we're putting the light on there. Kind of putting the light on. I'm looking at right here. Like the moon is going to be showing us more things about the extreme nature of the way things are structured in our society, or the way the system works is pretty extreme. Pluto can talk about very extremes. So like one very easy to understand analogy is like San Francisco, when it was still a city, the people lived, was like you would have the billionaires, and then like the people that have nothing, kind of live by side like that. That's very Pluto as an analogy, and very Pluto in Capricorn as well. People sleeping on the street, but the street itself is like built into a skyscraper for billionaires. It's very strange in a way, but it's the way our society is. So probably putting a lot of light on that, and then putting a lot of light in a similar way on Saturn, which is more about the actual difficulties, or the actual reality of people's suffering. And it looks like kind of like where that's connected to where things are going in the future, right? Like Saturn has been connected to this north and the south node for so long now. They've really been moving in tandem. Yeah. Okay. So I know we're just reviewing what we already should have talked about with enough detail, but this moon Jupiter thing. So the moon's pretty much applying while they're still in Aquarius, and Jupiter is almost there. But we really have some kind of standoff between like Moon and Mars there, which is interesting. I really wonder what that is. And we have Venus touching on the north and the south bending as they go into Virgo. So I know, like, I can't quite identify what this will be for you, but I know that like a lot of things are going to show up this week that kind of fill in some context, or kind of like give you the direction of like where things are going now. I think if you were kind of transitioning into a new lifestyle or like way of being this past week, there will be some changes coming up, but it's like we're gonna get to see like this side of the axis of things, right? Because like the moon is going through Capricorn and then Aquarius and then leading up to Pisces. We have the inner planets sort of all on the oppositional axis to that. So we're definitely seeing that side of things, and we're kind of relating it to, okay, what does this mean for like what I value, or like where do I want to go, or how, like, what am I going to do with my drive coming up? Because it's going to change when Mars goes into Virgo. I'm talking more about a detailed, organized. It's like you have your workout checklist, right? You have what you're going to integrate into your fitness plan, and you have it all very dryly detailed out, right? And that's kind of the way I think we're going to want to do things, and make sure that we have what we enjoy as things go through Virgo. But I think we're going to want to be having fun. Like the sun is in Leo. The sun is in Leo at this time. Once we kind of get through this full moon energy, I think next week will be more fun. So, all right, I hope that was somewhat helpful. Like I said, didn't really do my homework this week to find out what was going on, so kind of figuring it out with you here. But I hope you like that. Hope this week's good for you. I hope something to think about, at least, kind of to know about where the positions are, and you can kind of synchronize that with what's going on in your life, right? So, hope it's good. Have a great week, and I will catch you later.